This right-wing AI problem has gotten even crazier than you realize. YouTube might have just killed off part of the next generation of content creators. Trump's TPS problem has even some Republicans begging him to stop, and the Nvidia circular financing situation just got bigger. We're talking about all of that and even more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show, you daily dive into the news, starting with this. Right-wing commentators and right-wing organizations, they have jumped on the AI train, and they've taken it to a really, really weird new level. And I'm not even talking about whatever the fuck these thumbnails are. They are bringing the founding fathers back from the dead to regurgitate conservative talking points. And if this sounds familiar, you're most likely thinking about late last year when you had political commentator Glenn Beck sitting down on his podcast with an AI-generated and modernized version of George Washington. And according to Beck, George AI was created using an LLM that Beck himself made and trained on his personal library of founding documents and what Beck described as the immediate influences for the founding fathers. Right, so things that they would have read or encountered during their lives, like the Bible. And you had him claiming that the LLM has no access to the internet or any modern news, that it doesn't know him or his opinions or anything about Donald Trump, Marxism, or really anything after 1820. With Beck writing, our goal is also to remove our own bias, except for this one. We believe the words that built our nation should still be our North Star. But also, even if he's not training it to agree with him, Beck is still dictating exactly the pieces of historical record that it's trained on. Right? Glenn decides what this thing knows, what questions it gets asked, and how the 18th century political language gets translated for modern audiences. So it's not really surprising that George AI just started spouting opinions that sound fresh out of a right-wing think piece.
If I'm honest, America's biggest problem isn't political or economic. It's all moral. You've drifted from the virtues that make liberty possible in the first place. Freedom. To be free, you have to have discipline. You have to have faith. You have to have character. And if you don't have any of those things, laws can't stop anything. They mean little. Government turns either weak or oppressive. You have grown skeptical of truth. You're reckless with debt. You're comfortable blaming instead of building anything.
Right, and then shocker, I'm not a big Glenn Beck guy, so I thought this was like a one and done thing, but apparently not. Right, and so flash forward to March of this year, the first strikes from the US against Iran have happened, and Beck asks George AI about it. Specifically, he starts challenging the real George Washington's warnings against foreign entanglements, and this is how the AI responded.
Peace is not the default. It has to be guarded deliberately with foresight and strength. A homeowner who never locks their door isn't more peaceful, they're just more vulnerable. By showing potential adversaries that the United States could stand united, respond quickly, and protect its liberties that it understands, I believed conflict could be prevented before it exploded.
And it's not just Beck. Conservatives have absolutely loved invoking the founding fathers to back up their points of view. But using AI like this, it takes a rhetorical trick and it turns it up to 11. Or what better way to paint your opinion as the morally correct and patriotic one than have it regurgitated by the digital mouth of a founding father? And the thing is, this goes beyond just some podcast bros. This is something you've seen the federal government embrace. You had the White House partnering with PragerU to create a historical exhibit called the Founders Museum. And it's this collection of more than 80 paintings, including portraits of the 56 who signed the Declaration of Independence and some key events from American history, along with dozens of AI-generated short videos of those paintings coming to life to tell their stories. And among those, you have an AI John Adams giving this interesting little tidbit, which sounds very familiar.
Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes or inclinations, they cannot alter the state of facts. In other words, friend, facts do not care about our feelings.
Yeah, you got an AI-generated version of the second president of the United States quoting Ben Shapiro. And that whole collection is being distributed across the country. The White House encouraged states to hang the Founders Museum in their own capitals, embassies, and schools, with Nebraska and Florida both displaying at least pieces of it. Now you're seeing this whole resurrection thing trickling all the way down to the right-wing content world, with even smaller channels giving AI-generated Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin an edgy podcaster vibe.
Thomas Jefferson here. I tried stopping it, but looks like you morons let a Federal Reserve happen. So I'm going to ask the Fed chairs what it's actually all about. So what kind of fucked up secret rituals do you guys get up to in your spare time? Well, I tried to warn you guys, but now interest rates are your new god, and you're glued to your phones every time the swamp creature comes out to tell you whether rates will stay up or not. Ben Franklin here. I was playing with my kite in a lightning storm and ended up in the present-day, crime-ridden capital. Let's check on the state of this filthy shithole. So how many people in government now?
At least 3 million if you don't count the military, and we're pretty much always hiring.
Dude, what the
And while there's so many issues with these, one of the most obvious ones is we do obviously not know what these people would think about modern day issues, whatever computer impersonating them might claim. Right, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson didn't have thoughts or opinions about social media, transgender rights, Trump, abortion, DEI, whatever. But now you can have any creator or the fucking government make some slop and go, see? They can literally try to manufacture historical authority. And then there's also the revisionist history side of things. Right, you've had more experts raising the alarm about AI and its capacity to muddle history. With, for example, Brandon Gillis, the director of teaching and learning for the American Historical Association, saying, I have real concerns about the extent to which they weave together words that are preserved in primary sources from historical figures with other sort of commentary. And it's not always clear when the historical figures actually said the words that are coming out of their mouth or wrote them down, and when this is the work of whoever scripted them. But then also, very notably, that is not the only AI news in the headlines right now, because there is a lot of debate over this question. Did YouTube just successfully kill AI slop, or they're small creators? But that's what you got people asking, as many are super pissed off at YouTube right now. Because YouTube's changing its requirements to be eligible for the partner program. Right? And so for new creators applying for ad and premium revenue sharing, on top of having 1,000 subscribers, you'll also need 8,000 watch hours over the last year, or 20 million shorts views over the last 90 days. And while this new threshold won't apply to creators already in the program, right, they're grandfathered in, there are changes that will impact everyone. Right? Because in order to get ad and subscription revenue sharing on shorts, you'll need 10 million shorts views over the last 90 days to be eligible. And if you fall below that threshold, you can still remain in the partner program and can make money off of long form content, but you won't see any cash from shorts until you cross that 10 million view benchmark again. And those changes take effect starting February 1st, 2027. Though they also do not impact every level of the program, right? Eligibility for fan funding and shopping products remains the same. And you've got YouTube saying that it'll also provide more opportunities to earn by expanding Premium Lite, arguing that by increasing the subscribers here, creators will get more earnings. But immediately with this, you had tons of people livid, right? Arguing that all this is gonna do is hurt small creators, saying 8,000 hours over 365 days averages 22 hours of watch time every single day for a full year before your first ad dollar. 20 million views in 90 days is 220,000 views a day, saying this doesn't reward hard work for small creators starting out, this only rewards virality. And adding so many social media apps are generating millions and billions of views from videos that creators make, and those creators are not profiting anything. And you've got others also incredibly upset that people already in the program have to fight for views to keep shorts revenue. But then as far as YouTube, you had them trying to explain their reasoning behind these changes in a video yesterday.
And these are just adjustments based on the amazing growth of the creator ecosystem over the last several years. The kinds of content, the way you consume that content, the formats have all changed exponentially over the last several years. And so we want to make sure that the earnings you get from the program are meaningful and allow you to reinvest in your channel. And all of these changes, when you step back, we still expect to pay more out next year to creators than we will this year.
Then you have many online reading into other reasons why and largely blaming it on the boom of AI slop. Because just like every other social platform, YouTube has seen a massive influx of just AI garbage content getting pumped out and turning a profit. In fact, according to a report from The Guardian last year, nearly 1 in 10 of the fastest growing channels globally were fully AI generated. And so you've had big YouTube creators like Moist Critical saying,
YouTube is experiencing a flood, really a fucking pandemic, a plague of AI slop that is just truly infecting the platform with STDs, the likes of which you could never even fathom. These AI channels are infinitely springing up because they take actually seconds to make. And they are hitting these milestones, the previous milestones, very quickly. Obviously, inorganically, not authentically, and a lot of times it is just fraudulent. But they have been able to squeeze a lot of money from the YouTube Partner Program, and I imagine that's played a pretty big role in YouTube now upping the requirements to hopefully combat that.
And so with all this, right, as a result, you have some kind of supporting these changes, saying that, quote, I think it's necessary with everything that's happened to YouTube lately. We'll see how the changes affect everything, but hopefully we start to see YouTube get back to the way it was, saying if this lowers the amount of AI slop that gets monetized, I'm all for it. You've got some thinking that by specifically increasing the watch hours required, it gives YouTube systems more time to find and flag AI channels before they make money. And while I will say I'm skeptical of that because just the scale of YouTube is so massive, you also have some who don't care what the reason is, arguing a $4.3 trillion company slashes the number of people it is willing to share ad revenue with, and you think it's a good thing? And then you also have plenty of people doubting these new changes would meaningfully crack down on AI slop anyways, saying things like, if these are the channels finding it easy to reach monetization quickly, then why would they stop because the bar got higher? If anything, it seems like they'd go harder with the low effort content. But essentially arguing if YouTube really wanted to crack down on just AI, they could actually improve their moderation system so they wouldn't be bringing down real human creators with the machines. Though also I will say it's worth noting that YouTube has not expressly said that AI slop Slop has actually anything to do with these rule changes, right? It might be involved with the thinking behind the scenes, but this is largely just what a lot of creators and viewers think right now. And a big thing with that is you actually have that coming as all over the industry, there are some efforts to crack down on AI slop. Right, just today we learned that Spotify is now labeling AI content on its platform so that users aren't deceived into thinking that they're listening to a real human artist when they're not. Spotify will also not include music from AI personas in any editorial or algorithmic recommendations. Those features will begin rolling out in September, with the company saying true artist-fan connection can only be built on a foundation of trust and authenticity. In music, that means listeners need to be able to trust that the artist behind the music is who they say they are. And adding listeners have been clear in telling us that they don't like seeing an artist profile that seems human, only to find out that the persona is AI generated. And again, they're not alone. Even on LinkedIn, they introduced a button to report AI slop on the platform. And ultimately, while we're gonna have to wait to see how this plays out, where I stand is, looking at these changes, it looks like this is gonna be something that benefits me, right? Either generally or specifically with shorts content. Right? I actually have another YouTube channel called DeFranco News Clips that gets, I think, around 150, 160 million views every 90 days. So anything that increases our money on those shorts views, that's obviously positive for us. But for the change in general, I think based off of how it's been described, I'm not for it, right? I'm very pro new creator, pro small creator. I think that this could also specifically discriminate against niche channels. To a certain extent, it feels like YouTube's sending out different messages. They'll talk about like, hey, be careful, we don't want you burning out. But then also they're like, hey, you better hit that fucking view number, otherwise we're just cutting off the shorts money. And the people most likely to be impacted are the people where every single dollar matters even more. And again, that's before even mentioning the, is this a crackdown on AI slop angle? Or because one, at least at this point, it doesn't appear to be part of YouTube's official narrative here or argumentation. And two, I don't know how it would crack down on AI slop. They can make content at the boom, done. There's more at that rate compared to even the low effort human shorts, which are going to take longer. But hey, that's the situation. We're going to see what happens from here. And in the meantime, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts, opinions, and reactions? And then we've got to talk about this news out of Massachusetts that has a lot of people up in arms. But first, on August 21st and 22nd, I'll be seeing y'all live in Seattle and Portland. And then August 28th and 29th, I'll be in Boston and Philadelphia. And so, hey, you should grab your tickets right now at crashingouttour.com. Get out from behind the screen, be around other beautiful bastards, plop your butt in a seat, and crash out with me and my second favorite redhead. It is honestly a lot more fun than a PDS, but still newsy. So again, get your tickets right now while you can at crashingouttour.com. And then two, we'll be right back after a quick break. Have you ever had someone do something unexpectedly thoughtful that you just, it just stuck with you? Or like I think back to someone going out of their way to help me with something that wasn't even their responsibility. It just took a little extra minute, but I still remember it. And it's funny how those small efforts, they can tell you a lot about someone. And if you're hiring, today's sponsor, ZipRecruiter, that's your move. They help you find candidates who are more than just a resume on a screen. Right? Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested. Because a resume, it shows you what someone's done, but understanding why they want that job, it can tell you a lot more. And you can actually try it for free right now at ZipRecruiter.com/DeFranco. And ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested qualified candidates first. Right? So you meet the right people faster. And their powerful matching technology, it helps find qualified candidates quickly. Right? So you're not wasting hours sorting through people who never were a fit to begin with. And so it ends up not being surprising that ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring app according to G2. I mean, you got to try it. Try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for you. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter, they get a quality candidate within the first day. So yeah, try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/DeFranco. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DeFranco. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter. But then jumping right back into the news, you now have up to 350,000 Haitians just waiting for that knock on their door right now, waiting to be told that their temporary protected status has finally been revoked. Or because their TPS was originally going to end in February, but a judge extended it at the last minute. And so in the meantime, you had congressional Democrats trying to codify the extension into law, but they were blocked by Republicans.
TPS was created for emergencies. Democrats turned it into a one-way racket towards permanent mass migration.
And well, now, after the Supreme Court gave Trump the green light to finally end TPS, ICE has reportedly been planning to ramp up operations to arrest and deport Haitian migrants. And with that, you have DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen telling News Nation.
In its name itself, it says temporary protective status. The president has the right to start it. He also has a right to end it. The president ended it, which was the right call. So these individuals can either self-deport or we will arrest you and send you back. It's that simple.
So of course, where else would the Trump administration start its terror campaign but Springfield, Ohio?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
You now have reports that hundreds of Haitian residents have received letters telling them to come to the local ICE office. Right, and when they get there, you've had agents just seizing their passports and clamping ankle monitors on them. And then you're seeing as they leave, they're getting met by hundreds of anti-ICE protesters showing their support for however much that's worth. Now, as we've talked about before, it's not normal for immigration agents to use ankle monitors as a matter of routine like this, largely because it's arguably just not necessary. Right, TPS holders, they're not undocumented. We know who they are, where they are, they don't really have anywhere to go, and they almost always show up to their immigration appointments. And so if it's not strictly necessary, the norm has been to avoid ankle monitors, not least because they're humiliating and carry a massive stigma. And actually you have examples like this one Springfield resident saying he got fired from his job because his boss feared how the monitor would be perceived. You've also had reports of pregnant women being forced to wear the devices. And you've also had this video going viral of a man collapsing on the ground in tears while agents put the bracelet on him. And while you've had many center and left reacting to that with, ordinary human emotions like shock, anger, and sorrow, you had many others shedding notes here with, for example, this conservative influencer Andy No writing that he felt dramatically in front of the cameras because he doesn't want to go home. And adding those who are offered temporary status believe they should be given the right to stay forever and bring over their family members. With that post then provoking a number of disgusted responses from people on the left with, for example, Jesse Single writing, "This isn't like a video of a migrant committing a crime. Andy is just trying to juice engagement out of abject human misery and genuine bigots. His own fucking parents emigrated from Vietnam. History zigs or zags 1 inch and they're the ones collapsed on the ground crying." And also what can be said about this guy in the video, it can be said for the other 350,000 Haitians who just lost TPS. By and large, they're not criminals. They're not the worst of the worst. They're just people who fled violence in their country of origin. Right? In Haiti specifically, 90% of the country is ruled by violent gangs. Millions of people, they've been displaced. Hundreds have been killed in just the past few months. Even Trump's own State Department has a level 4 travel advisory warning against going to Haiti because of crime, terrorism, kidnapping, and unrest. In fact, ironically enough, it's difficult to self-deport even if you want to because commercial flights are banned from going to the island's capital. And so instead what you're seeing is that more deportation flights have landed at a smaller airport on the coast, but also there's much less intake capacity there, which is then why you've only seen about 1 flight per month, with the most recent one going on July 16th, carrying just over 100 deportees. And so that also means that there hasn't been a flight since the TPS got revoked, and some on the right are getting impatient about it. With, for example, Steve Bannon whining, "The airplanes and the buses should have been ready. 100% of the Haitians should have already left the country. It's unacceptable they're not." Whether he likes it or not, just stripping someone a TPS doesn't mean that you can deport them the next day. Right? By law, which is a thing that normally matters, they have the right to plead their case before an immigration judge, which could take months, if not years. And so unless TPS was the only thing keeping someone here despite a final order of removal, which is the case for some people, it's going to take longer to get rid of them than many conservatives would like. But also, even putting aside those annoying things called the law and human rights, the Trump administration is facing some pressure from the business wing of the party not to be too aggressive with its deportations. Or because according to researchers at UPenn, about 70% of TPS holders participated in the US labor force, many in construction and healthcare. And so you've had state and local officials from both parties, as well as business groups like the Chamber of Commerce, making calls to Washington like, hey, you even had Republican Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, where Springfield is, calling the revocation of TPS for Haitians a mistake and predicted a steep economic toll for his state. But with the White House, they haven't moved as fast as its furthest right supporters want. The general trend has been clear. Or with TPS getting stripped for hundreds of thousands of people from one country after another, right? Afghanistan, Syria, Honduras, Venezuela, Nicaragua, South Sudan, and on and on. And then you also have TPS for people from many other countries also expiring before the end of the year. So that's 170,000 Salvadorans, 100,000 Ukrainians, and nearly 2,000 Sudanese. Meanwhile, you've got ICE just going around eyeballing random people on the street and demanding to see papers. So also to be clear, like when I say random, I just mean they're picked out regardless of whether ICE knows who they are individually. When it comes to their group identity, that does not appear to be random in any sense of the word, right? You've just got video after videos of agents walking right past people with white skin and instead going straight for folks who look Latino. And so you've had, and you hear things like one dark-skinned US citizen who worked at a car wash describing how agents ignored his light-skinned colleagues, chased him, tried to tase him even though he was wet, and then cuffed him and put him in a van. With him adding, I kept saying, I'm American, but they just kept telling me I was Latino and my documents were false and to stop talking. And as you might imagine, when you're targeting people for no other reason than how they look, that's then bound to sweep up a fair number of US citizens. And with that, you had the Times finding tons of people who were apparently stopped, questioned, or detained, some saying agents refused to accept their passports or IDs, several saying they were threatened with tasers, tackled, or handcuffed, others saying that they were held for hours before getting released. So now you're seeing lawsuits left and right over this stuff, but also crazy thing, it's not even clear what the agents did is illegal. I mean, for at least 50 years, it definitely would have been, or because the Supreme Court ruled in 1975 that race and ethnicity could not be the sole factor in determining whether to stop someone. And since then, you've had court courts generally holding that the agents need a specific factual basis for believing someone is in the country illegally. But in a provisional ruling last year that may be later overturned or upheld, we'll have to see, the Supreme Court upended that consensus. You had the conservative majority ruling that agents can detain someone solely for any of the following reasons: their apparent race or ethnicity, the fact that they speak English with an accent or speak Spanish, their presence at particular locations like farms or pickup sites for day laborers, and the type of work they do. And so for the time being, it appears that racial profiling is officially legal for ICE agents. And then next up from that, in other viral political news, Massachusetts just eliminated the cutoff for when women can get abortions, and conservatives, they are losing their minds online right now. Because under the previous law, abortion was permitted until 24 weeks, around the time of fetal viability. And so any procedure past that was only allowed under very specific circumstances, right? Like if a pregnant woman's life was in danger, her physical or mental health is at risk, or there was a lethal fetal anomaly or a grave fetal diagnosis. But this new law removes those limitations, instead saying that abortions after 24 weeks will be allowed based on the professional judgment of the physician. And a huge key thing here is that this legislation has been championed by numerous top medical groups, including the National Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, the Massachusetts Medical Society, and the state's chapter of American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. And actually, Massachusetts is far from the first state to do this. 9 other states in Washington, D.C. have also gotten rid of gestational limits for abortion. And with this, you had State Representative Christine Barber, who sponsored the bill, arguing that the previous parameters were too specific and prevented some women from receiving necessary care, even in extreme circumstances. Or what they're telling reporters, we found that this care is so complicated, there is no way to encompass every possible exception, and saying it should be between a doctor and a patient. And you had that echoed by Governor Maura Healey during a press conference yesterday after she signed the bill into law.
We've heard so many stories that are filled with a lot of pain and anguish and heartache and a lot of trauma. We heard stories about the worst moments of a person's life, of a couple's life. We're signing this law today so that new patients, people we won't know or won't meet, will be able to get the care that they need in Massachusetts.
And actually a big thing is at that same conference, we also heard remarks from Kate Dineen. Right, if you haven't heard of her, she's a Massachusetts woman who was directly impacted by the old law and had to travel to DC to get an abortion after experiencing serious complications.
In 2021, I was nearly 33 weeks into a deeply wanted pregnancy, just back from our baby moon, and I had a routine ultrasound that turned into an urgent fetal MRI. And we learned that our son, Teddy, had suffered a catastrophic stroke in utero. He would either die or survive for some period of time with a spectrum of devastating outcomes. So at that moment, we learned that Massachusetts has a 24-week abortion ban with very difficult to access exceptions. Our son's diagnosis was devastating, but it did not qualify for an exception. Our doctors' highly capable hands were tied by Massachusetts state law.
And so with this new change, you had many pro-choice advocates applauding the move, but of course on the other side, you had plenty of anti-abortion, pro-birth folks hitting back, arguing that this law goes too far, with a lot of right-leaning outlets painting this as a move that'll allow women to seek abortions up until the moment they give birth for basically no reason. Or like you had Fox News running the headline, Dem Governor Maura Healey signed sweeping Massachusetts bill allowing abortions up to birth. And not only did you have that framing being pushed by Christian or anti-abortion publications, you had places like Gateway Pundit running an article titled Cold-Blooded Murder, wicked Massachusetts governor signs bill that allows abortions up to birth, as well as Red State, which went with Cults of Death. Massachusetts legalizes abortion right up until birth. And then you had voices on the right, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, writing, being a mother is the greatest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Abortions up until birth, unspeakable. And then you had Ted Cruz going a different route, saying, Lord, please save us from liberal white women. And while with this, you had some saying that it erases the last safeguards that limited late-term abortions to real medical necessity or lethal diagnoses. You also had a lot of people hitting back at those criticisms, noting that doctors, they're still required to be subject to the rules that govern medical practice, including professional standards and harm reduction. Right, and arguing that the intent of this law is clearly meant to cover the gaps in protection for women who experience serious complications that weren't covered under the old law. Right, saying that it won't just allow someone to get an abortion the week before their due date just because they wanted to. Right, and with that saying, women aren't carrying pregnancies for 9 months and strolling into a clinic during contractions because they suddenly changed their minds. These are extraordinarily serious medical situations involving actual patients, physicians, and often devastating diagnoses. And then with that adding, what's vile is turning somebody's medical catastrophe into a dishonest little minute before birth meme because the truth isn't inflammatory enough to go viral. And again, a very big thing here is that what's being discussed here is a very, very, very rare thing. Right, according to KFF, even before Roe is overturned, just 1% of all abortions nationwide happened after 21 weeks of pregnancy. Or to not even using that 24-week mark. Okay, with all that said, what are your thoughts, opinions, and reactions here? And then I've got even more news you need to know in just a minute, but first, friendly reminder to hit us with a like to keep this daily PDS in your feeds, and subscribe if you're new here. And then two, we'll be right back after a quick break. One thing that I've learned is that losing focus isn't the expensive part, it's trying to get it back. Right? One Slack message, one email, I'll just check this real quick, and suddenly you're spending like the next 15 minutes trying to remember where you left off. And personally, I found that I work a whole lot better when I set myself up to focus, which is why I've been using today's sponsor, Brain.fm. Right? Brain.fm, it's not just music, it's audio engineered by neuroscientists to help your brain focus, relax, sleep, or get creative, depending on what you need. One of the things I like is that it's designed to work with your brain instead of competing with it for attention. Right? It uses patented neural phase locking technology, and you can even adjust the neural effect depending on how much help you need staying locked in. They've got modes for deep work, creativity, relaxation, sleep, power naps, even an ADHD mode for people who need an extra boost. And unlike regular music, Brain.fm is designed to fade into the background so you can stay focused on the task instead of, the soundtrack. Also, it's the only music app backed by a National Science Foundation grant studying how sound affects focus. So hey, if you'd like a little help staying focused, head to brain.fm/DeFranco or scan that QR code to get 30 days free. Again, that's brain.fm/DeFranco. Then finally today, for your last block, I got more news you need to know quickly. Starting with the news around Lauren Boebert's son, who was just arrested on child sexual exploitation charges. Because back in 2024, apparently there was a sexually explicit video of Tyler Boebert and a 17-year-old girl that ended up on Instagram. Right? He was 18 at the time, and when the girl's mom found out, she contacted the police, and the investigation kind of grew from there. And you had Tyler reportedly admitting to being the guy in the video, but he said he wasn't the one who recorded it, claiming that it was made without him knowing. But with the girl saying that Boebert made the video with her and set it to her phone. That said, we also reportedly don't know exactly who uploaded the video, but the affidavit said that investigators found at least one Instagram group chat with around 124 people that helped spread it. And so all of that, it finally landed Tyler behind bars on Sunday, though since then, he's been released after posting his $10,000 bond, and he's scheduled to appear in court on August 19th for those charges. But then he also actually has hearings scheduled for next month for two separate cases that he's facing. As far as Lauren Boebert, she spoke out and said, "I love my son. We take allegations very seriously, and I pray for everyone affected during this challenging time." And adding, "It breaks my heart to see my child struggling. I will never give up on him, and I will continue to be there for it." And then you've got the news that Nvidia is no longer just selling AI chips. They're now acting like the central bank of AI with a $500 billion war chest and plans to keep the AI circling funding boom alive. And they're not alone with this plan. They've managed to convince some of the biggest private equity firms out there. We're talking BlackRock, Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, KKR, Apollo, and Brookfield to jump in on the action. And it's looking like Jensen Huang managed to convince them that this was a good idea by offering a 25% backdrop, which massively decreases the risk for the finance firms. But as far as why does this even raise a red flag, is because we're reaching the point in the AI boom where even massive AI labs and cloud startups aren't just running out of cash to buy Nvidia's insanely expensive chips. Right? That boat's already sailed, but even tokens to use Nvidia's own farms. And so instead of just selling the digital shovels, Jensen Huang's now helping financing them, all of which inflates the value of everyone involved. Right? Wall Street and Nvidia pull together $500 billion in third-party debt and private capital to loan to these AI developers. Those developers then hand that cash back to Nvidia to buy more GPUs and build AI factories. And you've got so many market analysts calling this BS and saying this is textbook circular financing. Right? Basically, Nvidia uses its clout to channel money to buyers who turn around and buy Nvidia's chips, which keeps Nvidia's revenue looking sky high, which keeps the AI hype bubble from popping. And in the worst case scenarios, it's everyone trading the same dollar around and pretending it's new money injected into the system. But Nvidia at least publicly says they don't see it that way, and they claim that there is immense real-world demand for AI, especially for smaller companies and nations, arguing they just lack the credit to build up quickly, and this plan lets them get in on the action. But either way, and regardless of your opinion, this fundamentally changed the nature of Nvidia and AI. And if we are in an AI bubble, moves like this are going to make that pop that much louder. And then your final thing today is that Trump just signed an executive order making changes to childhood vaccines, and it actually goes against years of guidance that we've gotten from medical professionals. And so with the order, he's calling for fewer routine shots for kids and to separate the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella into 3 different shots instead of 1. With that vaccine, he apparently suggested that it could be lethal for kids to get all at once. Though I have to stress that the CDC has not backed that up at all. In fact, they said that getting the vaccine in one go is much safer than getting measles, mumps, or rubella. But then outside of that, another overarching concern driving these changes is that he and his team are still pushing the idea that vaccines are giving kids autism. Though again, for the millionth time, there is no scientific evidence to back that up. So with this order, you have medical professionals speaking out, including the ones in Congress. Or with people like Senator Bill Cassidy saying, "I'm a doctor, this executive order is wrong. The president does not have the expertise to make these changes. Parents should listen to their child's pediatrician about vaccines rather than listening to an inaccurate executive order." Though for a guy that helped install RFK Jr., for many this feels too little too late. Though also, on that note, all of this is coming just a few days after Dr. Erica Schwartz was confirmed as the new head of the CDC. And a huge huge question ahead of her confirmation was how she would deal with the administration and their vaccine agenda. As well as right now, we haven't heard from her. You had many health experts saying this is clearly the first test for her. The president is placing her in an untenable position. But that, my friend, brings us to the end of your Tuesday show. Thank you for watching. I love yo faces. I'm gonna try to actually get some sleep tonight, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.